The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of Luna Station as Captain Jake Morrison stared at the message on his screen. The communication had arrived through quantum channels, encrypted with Federation codes that hadn't been used since first contact 5 years ago. Jake rubbed his tired eyes and read the message again, hoping he had misunderstood something. He hadn't. The Galactic Federation was asking Earth for help. Military help. Jake leaned back in his chair and whistled low. The same Federation that had called humans violent primitives during the first diplomatic meetings was now begging for Earth's assistance. The irony wasn't lost on him. He pressed the communication button and called his superior. "Commander Hayes, you need to see this immediately." 20 minutes later, Commander Lisa Hayes arrived on the bridge. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. As Earth's top expert on alien relations and military strategy, she had dealt with the Federation more than anyone else in the Defense Corps. "Ah! Show me," she said without greeting. Jake transferred the message to the main screen. "Ah!" Lisa read it silently, her expression growing more serious with each line. The message was from Ambassador Kethvara, a Thaxan diplomat whose crystal-like body could change colors to show emotions. In the attached video, his normally bright blue form flickered between dark purple and black, colors that meant extreme fear and desperation. "Honored friends of Earth," the ambassador's translated voice said through the speakers, "we face destruction. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 12 of our worlds in 6 months. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our diplomats cannot reason with them. They kill without mercy and destroy everything in their path. We formally request military aid from the people of Earth. Time is running short." The video ended. Lisa stood quietly, for a moment processing what she had seen. Finally, she turned to Jake. "How long since this message was sent?" 18 hours ago, ma'am. It came through the deep space relay near Jupiter. Contact Earth immediately. Tell them we need an emergency council meeting. Full priority." Jake nodded and began sending the message. As he worked, Lisa watched the ambassador's video again. She had met Kethvara several times during trade negotiations. He was normally calm and confident, speaking in the measured tones that all Thaxan diplomats used. She had never seen him show such raw terror. The situation had to be worse than the message indicated. 6 hours later, Lisa stood before the Earth Council in Geneva. The huge circular chamber was filled with representatives from every nation on Earth. At the center sat President Carlos Martinez, a steady man who had guided Earth through its first contact with alien species. "Commander Hayes," President Martinez said, "please brief the Council on this Federation request." Lisa activated the holographic display above the Council floor. Images of Federation worlds appeared in the air, showing peaceful cities with crystal towers, floating gardens, and organic architecture that seemed to grow rather than be built. "The Galactic Federation consists of 3 main species," Lisa began. "The Thaxans are silicon-based life forms who look like living crystals. They're natural engineers and architects. The Nereidans are aquatic beings with tentacle-like arms who excel at medicine and biotechnology. The Verdani are plant-based creatures who communicate through chemical signals and are experts in agriculture and environmental science." She paused and changed the display to show military data. All 3 species evolved on worlds with minimal predators, stable climates, and abundant resources. They've never experienced large-scale warfare. Their idea of conflict resolution involves economic pressure and lengthy negotiations. They view violence as a primitive response to problems that should be solved through discussion. Senator Patricia Wells, an elderly woman from North America, raised her hand. "Commander, these are the same aliens who refused our offer of mutual defense treaties 5 years ago. They called our military unnecessarily aggressive and our weapons tools of barbarism. Why should we help them now?" Lisa nodded. "You're right, Senator. They did reject our military alliance. They believed their peaceful nature would protect them from any threats. They were wrong." The display changed again, showing tactical reports from the war zone. The images were disturbing. Burning cities, destroyed ships, and refugee columns fleeing across barren landscapes. "The Zephyrian Empire appeared from beyond Federation space 6 months ago," Lisa continued. "They're a warrior culture that views conquest as a natural right. They don't negotiate, they don't take prisoners for exchange, and they don't show mercy to civilians. They've destroyed entire populations just to clear planets for their own use. Admiral Ryan Cooper, a grizzled veteran with gray hair and scars from the Titan mining wars, leaned forward. What's their military capability? Superior to the Federation in every way that matters, Lisa replied. The Federation builds ships for exploration and trade. Beautiful vessels with comfortable quarters and scientific equipment. The Zephyrians build warships. Their technology isn't necessarily better, but it's designed for one purpose: destroying enemies. She brought up comparison charts showing Federation versus Zephyrian vessels. The difference was stark. Federation ships looked like works of art. With smooth curves and transparent sections, Zephyrian ships were angular, armored, and covered with weapon systems. The Federation has numbers, Lisa continued, but they're trained for peaceful missions. Their captains have never fought a real battle. Their crews don't understand tactics beyond defensive positioning. When the Zephyrians attack, Federation ships broadcast surrender offers and try to evacuate civilians. The Zephyrians use that time to get closer and destroy them. President Martinez studied the data carefully. What are they asking from us specifically? Military advisors, tactical support, and combat-capable ships. They want us to teach them how to fight a war. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives argued that Earth should stay neutral in an alien conflict. Others worried about making enemies of the Zephyrians. Few suggested that Earth could benefit from Federation. Desperation by negotiating better trade deals. Senator Wells spoke again. Commander, what happens if we refuse to help? Lisa had been expecting this question. The Zephyrians won't stop with the Federation. Our intelligence suggests they're mapping human space. Earth's location makes us a strategic target for any force that wants to control this region of the galaxy. If the Federation falls, we'll face the Zephyrians alone. They'll have 12 more worlds worth of resources to use against us. The debate continued for 3 hours. Finally, President Martinez called for order and addressed the council. The question before us is simple, he said. Do we help the Federation now, when we might make a difference? Or do we wait and fight? The Zephyrians ourselves later, when they're stronger and we're isolated? The vote was close, but the decision was made. Earth would send military aid to the Federation. Admiral Cooper stood up. I recommend Colonel Sam Rodriguez to lead the mission. He's our best combat commander and has experience with alien contact protocols. Lisa nodded in agreement. Rodriguez was perfect for the job. He was tough enough to handle a war, but diplomatic enough to work with alien allies who might not understand human methods. Very well, President Martinez said. Prepare a strike team. Send our best people and our most advanced ship. If the Federation wants to learn how Earth fights wars, we'll teach them. As the council session ended, Lisa remained behind to study the tactical data. She had a feeling this mission would change everything. The Federation was about to learn that humans didn't just fight wars differently than other species. They fought to win. The used Defiant dropped out of hyperspace 3 days later at the edge of Federation territory. Colonel Sam Rodriguez stood on the bridge watching the massive structure ahead of them grow larger on the screen. Sanctuary Station was unlike anything humans had ever built. The alien space station looked more like a living organism than a military base. Curved sections that seemed to pulse with soft blue light. It's beautiful, whispered Lieutenant Ben Parker, the team's explosives expert. He was a young man with steady hands and an artist's eye for detail. It's also completely defenseless, muttered Sergeant Maya Johnson from her position at the tactical station. She was a sniper who noticed everything, especially weaknesses. No armor plating, no weapon systems, and those transparent sections are perfect targets. Rodriguez nodded grimly. The station confirmed what Earth intelligence had suspected. Federation built everything for beauty and comfort, not for war. Now that would have to change if they wanted to survive. Incoming transmission, reported Private Danny Walsh, their communications specialist. He was barely 21, but had the best ears for alien languages in the entire Defense Corps. The main screen flickered and showed a tall, graceful figure with flowing tentacle-like appendages. Fleet Commander Valthus was a nereid, an aquatic species that moved like they were swimming even in air. His pale blue skin had patterns that shifted and changed as he spoke. "Welcome to Sanctuary Station, Colonel Rodriguez," Valthus said in perfect English. His translator gave him a melodic voice that sounded almost like singing. "We are grateful that Earth has agreed to provide assistance in our difficult situation." Rodriguez stepped forward. "Commander Valthus, my team is ready to begin immediately. We'll need full tactical briefings on Zephyrian capabilities and access to your military records." Valthus paused, his tentacles rippling, and what Rodriguez had learned was confusion. "Certainly, Colonel. However, I should clarify that we were hoping for technological assistance and strategic consultation. We did not expect Earth to send combat personnel." "Commander, you're fighting a war," Rodriguez replied carefully. "Wars require soldiers. We prefer to think of this as a territorial dispute that has unfortunately escalated beyond normal diplomatic channels." Behind Rodriguez, Corporal Alex Turner shook his head. Turner was the team medic, a calm man who had seen too much combat to believe in gentle words for ugly realities. "Sir," he said quietly, "they still don't understand what they're facing." An hour later, the human team sat in Sanctuary Station's main briefing room. The chamber was designed for comfort rather than efficiency, with soft lighting and organic curves that made Rodriguez feel like he was inside a giant flower. Around the table sat the Federation's top military leaders, though Rodriguez was beginning to suspect that calling them military leaders was generous. Strategic Coordinator Tissandra represented the Verdani. She looked like a walking tree, with bark-like skin and leaves that changed color when she spoke. Instead of using sound, she communicated by releasing different scents that her translator converted to words. "The Zephyrian expansion began 6 months ago," Tissandra explained, her leaves turning pale yellow with concern. "They have claimed 12 of our outer systems using aggressive negotiation tactics." "Aggressive negotiation?" Parker asked, looking confused. Commander Valthus answered. "They make territorial demands and threaten economic sanctions if we refuse. When our diplomatic corps attempts to establish proper discussion protocols, they respond with shows of force." Rodriguez felt a headache building. "Commander, what exactly do you mean by shows of force?" "They position their vessels in threatening formations and broadcast hostile communications." Sergeant Johnson leaned forward. "What kind of hostile communications?" The Federation officers exchanged uncomfortable looks. Finally, Valthus activated a recording device. Speakers filled with sounds that made the humans freeze in shock, screaming, crying, the unmistakable noise of weapons fire and explosions. "They broadcast these recordings during negotiations," Valthus said, his tentacles darkening with distress. "We believe they are dramatizations designed to intimidate our diplomatic teams." Rodriguez felt cold anger building in his chest. "Those aren't dramatizations. Those are recordings of real attacks. The screaming you're hearing comes from people being killed." The Federation officers recoiled as if Rodriguez had struck them. Tissandra's leaves turned dark brown, which Turner recognized as shock from his briefings on Verdani physiology. "Colonel," she said through her translator, "surely you must be mistaken. No civilized species would engage in such barbaric behavior." "Zephyrians aren't civilized by your standards," Rodriguez replied. "They're predators. They kill because it's effective and because they enjoy it." For the next hour, Rodriguez tried to explain modern warfare to beings who had never experienced violence. He showed them tactical analyses of Zephyrian attacks, pointing out the systematic destruction of civilian targets and the acceptorate cruelty in their methods. The Federation leaders listened with growing horror, but Rodriguez could see they still didn't truly understand. They kept trying to find diplomatic explanations for military actions, seeking misunderstandings where there was only brutal clarity. "Perhaps we could arrange a meeting with their leadership," suggested Valthus. "If we could explain our peaceful intentions more clearly, surely they would recognize that cooperation benefits everyone." Private Walsh, who had been quietly monitoring Federation communications, suddenly looked up from his equipment. "Colonel, you need to hear this." He activated the speakers and played an intercepted Zephyrian transmission. Even through the translation matrix, The alien voices carried unmistakable menace and contempt. "Sector 7 is clear to Federation vermin," the first voice reported. "All population centers have been eliminated. The world is ready for colonization." "Excellent," replied a second voice. "What about the prisoners from the previous raids?" "No longer useful. We have learned all we need about Federation biology. Dispose of them and move to the next target." The room fell silent. Rodriguez watched the Federation officers' faces as the reality finally hit them. These weren't territorial disputes or diplomatic misunderstandings. This was genocide. Ambassador Kethvara, who had been quiet throughout the briefing, finally spoke. His crystal body flickered between deep purple and black. They mean to kill us all. "Yes," Rodriguez said simply. "Every man, woman, and child in Federation space. They want your worlds, not your friendship." Veilthis slumped in his chair, his tentacles hanging limp. "But why? There is enough space in the galaxy for everyone. Why must they destroy us?" "Because you're weak," Rodriguez answered bluntly. "Because you can't fight back. Because they can." Federation officers looked around the table at each other, lost and frightened. These were beings who had built an entire civilization on the principle that intelligence and goodwill could solve any problem. The discovery that some problems could only be solved with violence was devastating to their worldview. "What do we do?" whispered to Sandra. Her leaves now completely brown. Rodriguez stood up and looked around the table at the alien faces. Despite their strange appearances, he could see the same fear he had witnessed in human refugees fleeing from war zones. These beings needed protection, and Earth had the tools to provide it. "You learn to fight," he said. "You learn to be soldiers, or you die." He activated his communication device, says Colonel Rodriguez to Earth Command. "The situation is worse than we thought. The Federation isn't facing a territorial dispute. They're facing extermination. Recommend immediate deployment of additional military assets." As he spoke, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Private Walsh jumped to his communications panel and went pale. "Colonel, Federation sensors are detecting a massive Zephyrian fleet heading directly for this position. Estimated arrival time, 6 hours. Rodriguez smiled grimly. It looked like the Federation was about to get their first real lesson in warfare much sooner than expected. The next 6 hours changed everything for the Federation. Colonel Rodriguez immediately took control of Sanctuary Station's defense preparations, and the alien officers learned their first hard lesson about human military efficiency. "Commander?" "Veilthis," Rodriguez said, studying the tactical display. "I need every ship you have in a defensive formation around the station. Put your heaviest vessels on the outer ring." Veilthis looked confused. "Colonel, our ships are not designed for combat formations. They are exploration and trade vessels." "Then we'll have to work with what we have." "Show me your fleet roster." When the list appeared on screen, Rodriguez felt his heart sink. The Federation had 43 ships in the area, but they were all built for peaceful missions. Smooth hulls, designed for speed and efficiency, minimal armor, and weapons that were meant for asteroid mining or emergency situations. Sergeant Johnson studied the ship's specifications and whistled low. "Sir, their heaviest cannon couldn't punch through basic military armor. Their shields are designed to protect against space debris, not weapons fire." "We'll adapt," Rodriguez said. He turned to the Federation officers. "I need volunteers for a dangerous mission. We're going to modify some of your ships for combat." Lieutenant Parker stepped forward. "Colonel, what did you have in mind? You turn mining ships into bombers? Load them with every explosive we can find and use them for ramming attacks. It's crude, but it might work." The Federation officers looked horrified. Strategic Coordinator Tassandra's sleeves turned bright red with shock. "Colonel, you're suggesting we deliberately crash our ships into enemy vessels. The crews would be killed. Only if they stay aboard," Rodriguez replied. "We evacuate them first, then use remote control for the final approach." Commander Veilthis shook his head. "Our technology does not include remote piloting systems for ships. Such devices would be too dangerous if they malfunctioned." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Lucky for you, human technology does include those systems." Private Walsh, contact the Defiant. Tell them to transfer all our remote piloting equipment to the station immediately. As his team worked to prepare defenses, Rodriguez watched the Federation crew with growing concern. They moved slowly, discussing every decision in committee. When Corporal Turner suggested placing medical stations near potential battle zones, they spent 20 minutes debating whether treating combat injuries might encourage violent behavior. Ambassador HFY Rodriguez said finally, "I need you to make something clear to your people. In 3 hours, enemy ships are going to arrive with the intention of killing everyone on this station. They won't negotiate. They won't listen. To surrender offers, they will simply start shooting. Your people need to understand that their choice is fight or die." Crystal Bean's body flickered with dark colors. "Colonel, what you ask goes against everything we believe. Violence is wrong. Taking life is wrong. How can we become the very thing we oppose?" "Because the alternative is extinction," Rodriguez replied. "Sometimes the right choice and the easy choice are different things." 2 hours before the Zephyrian fleet arrived, sensors detected a single enemy scout ship approaching the station. Commander Veilfis immediately opened communication channels and began broadcasting peace offers in 17 different languages. The Zephyrian response was swift and brutal. The scout ship fired a single energy beam that cut through the station's outer hull like paper. 23 Federation personnel died instantly as atmosphere rushed out into space. The communications panel crackled with an incoming transmission. A harsh alien voice filled the command center, speaking through a translation matrix. "Federation vermin, this is Commander Krextel of the Zephyrian Second Fleet. You have 1 hour to evacuate your station completely. Anyone remaining when we arrive will be killed, your ships will be destroyed, your technology will be claimed for the Empire." The transmission ended. The command center sat in stunned silence until Private Walsh spoke up. "Double quotes, sir. Should I try to respond?" "No," Rodriguez said. "They're not interested in talking." He activated the station-wide communication system. "All Federation personnel, this is Colonel Rodriguez. We are now under direct attack. Combat protocols are in effect immediately. Report to your assigned positions and prepare for battle." The transformation that followed amazed the human team. Despite their peaceful nature, the Federation personnel responded to the crisis with surprising determination. Within an hour, every available ship had been equipped with human-designed remote control systems. Mining explosives had been loaded into cargo holds and rigged for maximum damage. Ambassador HFY approached Rodriguez as the final preparations were completed. "Colonel, I want to pilot one of the bombing ships myself." "Ambassador, those are suicide missions. Even with remote control, there's a chance the pilot won't be able to evacuate in time." The crystal being's body glowed with steady blue light. "My people are dying throughout Federation space while we debate in comfortable conference rooms. It's time for leaders to take the same risks we ask of our citizens." Rodriguez studied the alien's determined expression and nodded. "Very well. Lieutenant Parker will brief you on the mission parameters." 30 minutes before the Zephyrian fleet's arrival, long-range sensors detected the full scope of the approaching force. 40 enemy ships, all of them purpose-built warships with heavy armor and massive weapon systems. The Federation's modified fleet looked pathetic by comparison. Colonel Sergeant Johnson reported from her position at the tactical station. "Their lead ships are already charging weapons. They're not even bothering with formation flying. They're just going to bowl straight through our defenses." "Good," Rodriguez replied. "Overconfidence makes them predictable." "Commander Veilfis, have your ships fall back as soon as the enemy opens fire. Make it look like we're retreating in panic." "But Colonel, won't that encourage them to advance more aggressively?" "Exactly what we want. The closer they get, the more damage our modified ships can do." The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace exactly on schedule. The enemy ships were massive and ugly, covered with weapon systems and scarred armor that spoke of many previous battles. They moved toward the station in a loose formation, clearly expecting minimal resistance. All ships, this is Rodriguez. The Colonel broadcast on the Federation command frequency. Wait for my signal. Do not engage until I give the order. The Zephyrians opened fire while still at long range. Energy beams and missile salvos streaked toward the Federation fleet. The alien ships immediately began retreating, just as Rodriguez had ordered. Several took hits and exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Now, Rodriguez whispered, all ships execute attack pattern Alpha. The Federation's modified mining vessels suddenly reversed course and accelerated directly toward the enemy fleet. The Zephyrians, caught off guard by the sudden aggression, tried to adjust their formation. Too late, Ambassador Kethvara's ship reached the enemy flagship first. His final transmission came through clearly. For all the children who will never see their worlds again. The explosion lit up space like a new star. The massive Zephyrian warship split in half, its hull cracked open by the mining explosives. 3 more Federation ships followed, each one targeting a different enemy vessel. The Zephyrian formation dissolved into chaos. As the remaining ships tried to avoid the suicide attacks while returning fire, in the confusion, Sergeant Johnson found perfect targeting opportunities. Multiple hits on enemy engines, she reported calmly. 4 ships are dead in space. 3 more are leaking atmosphere, but the victory came at a terrible cost. Half the Federation fleet was gone, and the remaining ships were badly damaged. The Zephyrians still had 25 functional warships. Commander Krextall's voice crackled over the communication system. It's filled with rage and surprise. Impossible. The Federation does not fight. They do not kill. Rodriguez activated his own transmitter. This is Colonel Rodriguez of Earth. The Federation has new allies now, and we do fight. We do kill. We're very good at both. The silence that followed was filled with promise and threat. The real battle was just beginning. The battle for Sanctuary Station lasted 6 more hours, but those hours changed the course of the war. Colonel Rodriguez watched as the Federation forces learned to fight with a desperation and cunning that surprised even the humans. Commander Valthus, his tentacles now scarred from flying debris, coordinated the remaining Federation ships with new tactical precision. All vessels concentrate fire on their damaged ships. Show them no mercy. Rodriguez smiled grimly at the change in the alien commander's language. A few hours ago, Valthus had been offering surrender terms. Now he was talking about mercy in purely tactical terms. Sergeant Johnson reported from her sniper position on the station's outer hull. I've got a clear shot at their command ship's bridge. Permission to take out their leader? Negative, Rodriguez replied. We need Commander Krextall alive. Dead enemy tells us nothing. A captured enemy tells us everything. The tide of battle turned when Private Walsh intercepted Zephyrian communications and discovered their fatal weakness. Colonel, they're not coordinating their attacks. Your ship captain is fighting independently. They don't have unified command protocols. Rodriguez immediately understood the opportunity. All Federation ships target their communication arrays. Cut them off from each other. The strategy worked perfectly. Without communication, the Zephyrian ships began firing at random targets, sometimes hitting their own allies in the crossfire. Their superior firepower became useless when they couldn't coordinate their attacks. Lieutenant Parker, working with a team of Thaxan engineers, had been preparing a special surprise for the enemy. Colonel, we've modified the station's mining lasers. They're not military grade, but if we can get the Zephyrians close enough, we can cut through their hull armor. Do it, Rodriguez ordered. The mining lasers fired in sequence, each beam focused. On a different enemy ship, the Zephyrians had never encountered industrial equipment used as weapons. Their shields, designed to stop military energy beams, were useless against the raw cutting power of mining tools. 3 more enemy ships exploded. 4 others lost their engines and drifted helplessly. Commander Krextall's flagship found itself surrounded by the remaining Federation vessels. This is your final warning, Rodriguez. Broadcast to the enemy commander. Surrender now or be destroyed. Krextall's response came through harsh and angry. I do not surrender to inferior species. The Zephyrian Empire will avenge this defeat. Maybe, Rodriguez replied, but you won't be there to see it. The final assault was swift and decisive. Corporal Turner led a boarding party onto the damaged Safrian flagship, while the Federation ships provided cover fire. The human medic had volunteered for the most dangerous job, knowing that capturing the enemy commander alive was crucial for the war effort. 20 minutes later, Turner's voice crackled over the communication system. "Colonel, we have the target. Commander Krexthal is our prisoner." The remaining Zephyrian ships, seeing their leader captured and their fleet destroyed, finally retreated into hyperspace. The Battle of Sanctuary Station was over. In the aftermath, Rodriguez stood in the station's damaged command center with the surviving Federation officers. The cost had been terrible. 28 ships destroyed, over 400 Federation personnel dead, and the station itself would need months of repairs. But they had won. More importantly, they had proven that the Federation could fight. Commander Valthus approached Rodriguez. His tentacles moving in patterns that the colonel had learned meant deep respect. "Colonel, my people owe you a debt we can never repay. You taught us that sometimes peace must be defended with strength." Rodriguez shook his head. "Commander, you taught yourselves. My team just showed you some techniques. The courage to use them came from within your own people." Strategic coordinator Cassandra joined them, her leaves now showing a mixture of colors that indicated both grief and determination. "What happens now, Colonel? Zephyrians will send more fleets. Now we prepare," Rodriguez replied. "Turn the Federation into something the Zephyrians never expected to face, an enemy that fights back." The interrogation of Commander Krexthal began immediately. The Zephyrian leader was brought to a secure section of the station, where Rodriguez waited with a translation device and a very clear message. "Commander, you have a choice," Rodriguez said calmly. "You can tell us about Zephyrian military capabilities, fleet positions, and strategic plans. Or you can watch your empire fall ship by ship as we teach the Federation everything we know about warfare." Krexthal, a large reptilian being with scarred scales and cold yellow eyes, laughed harshly. "You think one victory matters? The Empire has thousands of ships. Your Federation vermin learned a few tricks, but they are still weak." "Are they?" Rodriguez asked. He activated a holographic display showing the battle footage. The fleet was destroyed by mining ships and cutting tools. "You were outfought by people you called primitive. What does that make you?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered in the alien's eyes. The interrogation continued for days, but Rodriguez was patient. Meanwhile, the Federation began implementing the new military doctrine he had developed. Every ship was retrofitted with human-designed weapon systems. Every crew received training in combat tactics. Most importantly, every Federation citizen learned that their survival depended on their willingness to fight. The breakthrough came when Krexthal finally realized that the Federation had fundamentally changed. "You have turned them into killers," he said, his voice filled with something that might have been fear. "They were peaceful, pure. You have corrupted them." "No," Rodriguez replied. "We freed them. They were never weak. They just didn't know. They were strong." The Zephyrian commander finally began talking. The information he provided revealed the location of enemy fleet bases, supply lines, and the homeworlds of the Empire. Most importantly, he revealed that the Zephyrians had been so confident of easy victory that they had committed most of their forces to the Federation war. "Your people made the same mistake many others have made," Rodriguez told Krexthal during their final interview. "You assumed that peaceful meant helpless. You confused kindness with weakness. The Federation species are intelligent, adaptable, and capable of incredible sacrifice for their beliefs. They just needed someone to show them how to channel those qualities into effective resistance." 6 months later, the war was over. The Federation, now armed with human military knowledge and their own desperate determination, had driven the Zephyrian Empire back to their home systems. The aliens who had once conquered through terror now faced enemies who fought with both courage and cunning. Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant as they prepared to depart for Earth. The war was finished, but the alliance between Earth and the Federation was just beginning. Commander Valthus, bearing the title of Supreme Military Commander of the Federation Defense Force, came aboard to see them off. "Colonel, will we see you again?" "Probably," Rodriguez replied with a smile. "The galaxy is a dangerous place. and Earth has learned that we're not alone in it anymore. The Defiant jumped to hyperspace, carrying Rodriguez and his team home. Behind them, they left a Federation that would never again be defenseless. The peaceful aliens had learned to fight, not because they wanted to, because sometimes fighting was the only way to preserve peace. In his final report to Earth Command, Rodriguez wrote, "Mission accomplished. The Federation will survive. More importantly, they will remember that survival sometimes requires strength, and strength sometimes requires sacrifice. They are no longer just our allies. They are our partners in defending everything we hold dear," the galaxy had learned. A new lesson. When peaceful species called for help, Earth didn't send diplomats or negotiators. Earth sent soldiers, and soldiers knew how to win.